Hello and welcome everyone to the Beacon of Light podcast this evening. Tonight we have an incredible author with us, and I am really excited to share her story here. She actually has two books that we're going to be showcasing this evening. So through all of this, we're really excited to have Miss Andi Pray. And so before we start talking to her, let's jump into all of this. I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts now. And we are back. All right. Well, welcome, Andi, and we're excited to have you here as a second time. We want to celebrate for Miss Andi because, as you'll see running on the ticker underneath, she has two books, and one of her books called Rescue Me. This is a 1-year anniversary celebration. So congratulations on that. That is fantastic. And for all of you that are joining us here, please share with us where you're from, pop in and say hello, hit those like, subscribe buttons and all of that so we can keep sharing these podcasts out to the world. We want to spread hope and light to everyone. So Andi, congratulations, yes, on your first year book here. So tell us a little bit about Rescue Me, and then we'll jump into book 2.
Rescue Me is starts out with my character Mouse. She grew up on the streets and cannot remember anything else but the streets. And when one of her friends gets killed while they're trying to get a baby out of the neighborhood, she kind of just gives up the whole thing of the exploitation and starts a one-man war against the pimp and drug lord and tries to get others out. She takes it a lot more serious because with her friend, they were kind of going here and there and trying to save others and try to keep the younger ones out and try to help those who were sick get out and to help free them a little by little, and with the goal of getting their whole family out. But as some go out, they're replaced because it's like so easy to just like replace others. Is a lot of these victims of human trafficking come from broken homes, and they feel like the pimp treats them better than their own home did. So anything that they have out on the streets is better than what they had before. So that is why it is, I don't want to say easy, but yet it is easy for the pimps to manipulate them and bring them in. And then you have the online boyfriend trap and everything that also brings them in. So as Mouse is trying to get them out, she kind of causes trouble because this is messing with people's control, people's merchandise and property, and it's messing with their income, and it puts a big target on her back. It also brings in an FBI team to help her out, and Mouse winds up sacrificing herself, spoiler, on the battlefield, and then up from Mouse arises Mina, because Mouse becomes a new person. She doesn't have to just go by the name Mouse anymore. She can have a new life, but her family on the streets has to believe that she is dead.
Got it. So this is a really interesting topic, and your fascination with understanding of human trafficking, which is what slavery is, and this whole concept. Right now, there is January is the awareness month for human trafficking, and we want the world to know that we as a people are getting more and more aware. And I think sometimes in the awareness, we find it so shocking and hard. And when you see pictures and hear stories, it's really not dinner table friendly to discuss this. But at the same
Yeah.
time, if good people don't do anything, then evil just gets to keep going. So, Andy, how did you get started in wanting to write fictional books about this topic?
I had a book about getting out of a domestic violence thing. It was supposed to be a trilogy. I only got the first book out. And then for some reason, just got away from my writing for a while. It's like I just gave up. And then as I was getting back into rewriting that story and giving it a stronger backstory, I was going to reprint it with the company I went through for Rescue Me. And I kind of got taken hostage by my characters for Rescue Me. They just kind of popped in and I started building the character ideas and I'm like, this would be neat, but it does not fit in with this other book story. And so I just took off with it. But what got me started on human trafficking interest was going to a Women of Faith conference a few years ago, and both Lisa Bevere, who is part of Mission International, and Christine Kane, who started A21 about 15 years ago because of all the missing person posters of women and children around an airport. And when she dug some digging into it, she found that a lot of them were in brothels and part of human trafficking and modern day slavery. And so she started A21 to give them an opportunity to get out and to have a transformational time of healing, education, learning how to get a job, do bills, take care of themselves, and then move on into their own life in their own homes. And it kind of put pieces together from my own past, not me personally, but things that I would find interesting listening to people talk. I watch way too much TV and movies and just life in general with how human beings treat each other and how you see on cop shows that when somebody is quote unquote a prostitute, that their testimony in court is not as liable because of the fact that they may be on drugs or anything like that, but they're still a human being. They still have a story to tell. They still want to be heard. And so it just grabbed my heart. And so I just started writing, what would it take if, someday an FBI agent came from this and they fought really hard to break all the binds and to do all the work to become an agent. And so I started with that story of where she was an agent and then actually worked my way backwards to the beginning book of Rescue Me, where you actually meet Mouse. So
Interesting. So the concept really, when we hear these stories, there is a tug, and you want to know what can we do, and finding organizations, giving support to places that are already set up. That's a great place to start. And I know that purchasing your books eventually will help to start your foundation of the Green District Angels. Is that correct?
Green Light, yeah, Green
Oh,
Light
sorry,
District.
Green Light District Angels. And so the
Mhm.
idea there is to help in these cells so that another organization can go in and be a part of healing, be a part of education, be a part of transformation. Because there's one thing to be rescued, and after one is saved, if they don't have the skill set to start a new life, if they only know one thing, they might just fall back to it out of survival. And that is what has to really foundationally change. With anyone who has been in any kind of abuse, the skill set was not there prior to. So now healing and a skill set for a new life really have to be implemented. So it's really an interesting concept. Thank you, John. He says trafficking men is such a silent issue as well. And corporate sex trafficking is happening, and it is extremely, difficult to identify. and these challenges that really happen. Thank you, John, for popping in here and letting us know these things are happening. The concept really is such a big deal, but it's hidden. There's so many, and yet it's hidden. So Andi, you had some statistics in the blog on
Mhm.
Monday, which were just mind-blowing. Can you remember some of those things?
When I started writing this back towards 2019, there were about 27 million people estimated and believed to have been involved in human trafficking. And this involves the forced labor, child porn, sexual exploitation in the brothels, in the streets, um, and then also organ harvesting, where people are um, basically told that, you know, they'll be taken care of if they give up like a kidney, and yet they actually get sick and they can't make their medical bills. And so it's a big scam of the organ harvesting. And then there are also children who are bred just for their organs. They're kept healthy and then they're actually killed for the organ harvesting. It's a very sad situation. And yes, it is true that there are both men and women, boys and girls, both in the sexual exploitation and in the forced labor. The massage parlors, the nail salons, the nannies, the live-in housekeepers, the child soldiers. It's all connected. And then after COVID, with the shutdown and a lot of places losing their businesses and families losing their income and their person who brought in their daily labor wages, human exploitation and human trafficking boomed about 40% in 2020. And now, as an estimate from A21 and Love Justice International, about 50 million people are now involved in human trafficking in some sort of way.
That number is just
Mhm.
mind blowing, and it is just this idea that the concept of want, desire, survival, if you have faced hunger and if you have faced homelessness and there is a way to be provided for, the possibility, the temptation of that, it is just because you're surviving it. It is so challenging. So John asks a question about this. He says, do you think those numbers are actually a low estimate?
It's hard to say because of the fact that a lot of things are hidden. Because there are children born into exploitation that are hidden. The fact that, you know, and in my book, this is my fictional story, but from what I gather from it, I don't have any hard proof of this or anything, but in my imagination, in my book, in Rescue Me, um, there's like a landfill in behind the neighborhood, and there's a mass grave where people have just disappeared. And there's also a part where Mouse takes one of the FBI agents into this warehouse where they have children that were born literally on the streets that have no name, nothing, and they are bought, and you don't know what happens to them after they're bought and sold, or black market adoptions or anything like that. So it could be high, it could be low, but there are no definite census to be able to do this and to say this. And a lot of people don't want to admit that they're involved in it. So it's kind of difficult because of getting the information. It's all an estimation. So it could be high, it could be low, it could be spot on.
Right? The concept, I think, of having it's probably lower than what's actually happening, unfortunately, is probably the truth. And
Mm.
so how do we as people, as adults, as kids, what can we do? Like within your fictional characters, I know kind of focus in on the street characters. And you said in your second book that Mina kind of rises up through this. And
Mhm.
so, what is Mina's concept? Like, what does she want to do now?
Well, she wants to become an FBI agent, but because of her remedial education as in none, because you don't need to know how to read and write to please somebody. So, she has to start from the very beginning, learning your ABCs and numbers, and she finds out she's really good with math. So that's not a big deal, but it's a hard concept for her because she's in this transformational home with teenagers and nobody knows how old she is. They have an idea, but because they do examinations and some people have an idea of who she really is, but for her own safety they cannot say. But she she's a lot older, but yet she looks younger. She has this like childlike look that's frozen in time. But they're all reading Narnia, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and she's on Biscuit, the little golden retriever puppy. And she feels way behind. She doesn't know she's going to get her goal. She's trying to push off the fact that while she was on the streets to save people, she didn't need to know how to read and write. So she just goes out and gets into more trouble, which, causes her, to the FBI team to try to, help her focus her intentions because one of the characters tells her that the FBI only accepts those that have like really good grades, have commitment, have done the work to get there. It's not just like an open revolving door for people to go in and say, yeah, I'm an agent. You got to do the work to get there. And so that kind of helps focuses her tendencies, but yet she can't turn away from the things that she sees because of what she has been through. And she just can't help but help people.
Right? It is such a challenging thing because her skill set for the streets is like 100%, right? Her protection, safety, the whole concept of how to get in and get out and know because she knows she lived that whole lifestyle, that's a given. So when it comes to that part of the test, 100%. But you got to be able to read and put it all together. I know. A great combination and conflict there within the character. So I again, this is that whole idea of helping Miss Andi here is to purchase these books. Rescue Me is the first book, which is the anniversary this evening, and we're really excited about that. There it is. You can see on the cover there, Rescue Me, as well as now with the second book, Mina. And the sales of these books help to go to set up the nonprofit organization, which Andi wants to begin to help with healing and transformational understanding of how to change a life. And it is challenging because with trauma, rewiring your brain and emotion and connection and working through trauma is going to be a challenge. But there is always hope and life, and the opportunity out there is really there. So Andi, is there going to be a third book to this story?
Yes, I have like 8 or 9 books kind of timelined out. My Guy is the next in the series, and it focuses more on domestic violence than it does on trafficking. And it was primarily scheduled to come out on my birthday, April 30th, to kind of celebrate, hey, happy birthday to me. But I am going to push it back into June, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Awesome. Well, that is a great another addition to this. John has a question out there, and he says, "Can you share how you decided to use that font for Mina? Where'd that come from, girl?"
The font was actually with Rescue Me. I wanted the spray paint graffiti kind of dripping paint type thing, and I wanted them to put it into Mina also. But it worked out in a way because with Mina, as you see, the I is small, the middle N is capital, and that kind of reflects her signature, the way that she would write as she's learning with her remedial things. So the gentleman who did my cover off of Fiber, I really appreciate him. He got that concept. I wanted the graffiti again, and but it turned out to work out with the remedial education that she's going through, because when you see your kids bring home their homework from like kindergarten or preschool, and they're first learning how to write their name, they don't have the concept of what's capitalized and what's lowercase. So it worked out great.
That's a great kind of insight to her as well, because that will really become that signature for herself, and something I think to be proud of, but also really telling, right, of what she can and what she's still learning with. So, Andy, in this concept, when you were there at the meeting, being inspired by that faith meeting with human trafficking and the whole concept of everything coming together. Have you shared these books with the people that were there at the conference or the person who inspired you?
I have tried a little bit, but to kind of get past the gatekeepers is a little difficult. When I was coming up with the idea, I kind of sent them, what would does this sound like it would be a actual thing that a survivor may have gone through, and I gave them the concept for the book, and they took it as I was writing a survivor's story, and they're like, oh yeah, if you have the permission of the survivor, go for it and write it. And I'm like, no, you didn't hear me. And but I try to be one who shares a lot of A21 tweets and stuff, things from Christine Kane, Unlikely Heroes. There was a rock band, a Christian rock band in the 80s, Striper. The guitarist Oz Fox is actually married to Annie Loper, who was in the lifestyle, in human trafficking in Las Vegas, and got out of it, and now has a group called Hookers for Jesus, and she has a book called Fallen. And so I follow her, and there are so many. It's a Penalty, Not for Sale, the children Missing Children and Exploitation Center, NCMEC. There are so many things that you can do to help out by joining them, sharing the information for these missing kids, sharing the education of what you can do to just be a human being to everybody. Because one thing that was going around a lot with COVID is there was a saying going around, with like the whole world was turning upside down, and trying to just be kind, be human, be both. Um, and the fact that everybody's got a story that they're going through, a storm that they're going through. You don't know what the premises is. So first impressions cannot just be what you take to get to know somebody. You got to say there's something going on in their life that may be causing them to be grumpy today or some, and just being kind to them and treating them like a human can be just that footstep or that little ember or spark, maybe even a whole catalyst to get them to say that somebody can be nice, and that this can turn their life around. And having a cup of tea with somebody, having a cup of coffee with somebody.
Yes, the kindness, the ability to show love, what really is the foundation for that, because if you've been exploited, if you've had abuse happening, you mistrust and you don't understand what love, like the connection of how that really works. And so to rehabilitate people into understanding what kindness, what civility is, what it means to be trustworthy, what it means to be trusted, what it means to trust somebody else, what it means to show back and forth. I mean, it could get into such depths of like even love languages, right? That
Yeah.
because we are changing and reprogramming a brain that has had trauma, and
And
it's and in the sexual trauma that happens there is that wiring is some of the some of the most challenging to rewire out because we our bodies are made for I don't know how to say this exactly. When we're touched, when you have the acceptance of physical touch is part of how our bodies are made, and when that physical touch crosses boundaries that are not appropriate, and that is now your life, well, you just start to build up internally, even if you can't fight off physically these walls, and your healthiness to ever have a whole family, to raise kids, to understand what it takes to have that takes time in the healing process. And so I'm wondering, have you interviewed or met with other organizations that have the healing process happening in their organizations? Have you met and chatted with anyone like that?
Sort of. For about a month, I was in a women's shelter. Not me as a survivor in a women's shelter, but I was trying to volunteer and get into a job with it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I did get to meet some beautiful women who had been going through it. I have a contact that works with an adult learning center that gives skills to displaced adults that need a new skill set to live. And they knew of a person who had been in the lifestyle that wanted to share her life with me. And then she kind of just poofed off the face of the earth for a while. And so I'm hoping that that she comes back in contact and does want to share her story, because I would love to hear it. I mostly just read stories and stuff and follow along with the educational um, videos that A21 has available on their website. They have a whole lot of education so that you can be aware of how to see things, how to help out, and they have a whole list of ideas of how you can do it. And there are certain areas that are asking for volunteers that may be able something that you could do. I'm not in an area for that, which really surprises me because I'm in Ohio, which one year was ranked the highest for human trafficking. And but the closest office for one that I know of, I haven't done like a whole bunch of research. I've just been mostly focusing on my writing with my characters and what they're telling me they want to do. It is in South Carolina, so that did not work out. But with the grooming and the trauma that you were talking about, in Mina, there is a part where she is taken to a store because she is addicted to smoothies. And so they're talking about making her own smoothies, and in the recipe books, putting stickers in there for the ingredients to help her figure out how to make it on her own since she's not reading very well. And when she goes to the store, in the refrigerated section, there are too many choices for her. And she kind of freezes and has a panic attack because she's wondering, when she was taking care of her family, where were the resources for her to do that? And even though she doesn't have to take care of them anymore, she sees them in her mind, and she kind of has like a PTSD moment of flashing back of their faces looking to her for food. And there are just so many choices, and she only has a $20 bill. So she kind of freaks out because it's just this whole big world has opened up to her, and it was just a little bit much. So she had to be directed out at the store and stuff. And it was
Yeah.
just a fun scene to write, and yet it was a traumatic for me as the author to write it. trying to get inside the head of that character to try to feel what they would feel with all of a sudden going from nothing to having all of these options open to them.
Right. It can be overwhelming, and so that is a skill set to learn so that you can, you know, take it bit by bit and not just, feel like you're drowning at the bottom of the pool with all of these choices. So great job in describing that. Again, a kind of a simple scene, but the impact you can see because it's connected to what she knows, that hunger, that desire. I need something I'm trying to take care of, and there's nothing. And now all of a sudden, wow, I have so many options and I don't even know where to start. So yeah, there
Mm,
can be some challenges with many things. Well, Andy, I really appreciate you finding the time to meet with us, and happy anniversary again for this first year
thank
and
you.
for Rescue Me. So get out there and purchase these books and help her to get her own nonprofit organization set up. And we're just hopeful that in this awareness month that do something that you haven't done yet and see how you could help. If it is a $5 donation to an organization that's already set up, if there's some volunteer time to go through, if you feel like purchasing one of Andy's books to help in further understanding ways, and it is a fictional book, so it just will maybe present things there so that you know how you can empathize more and move forward, because these children do turn into adults, and as those adults continue to grow, their skill set needs to continue to improve. So thank you again, Andy. I agree, happy anniversary. I think it is
Thank
fantastic,
you.
and it is really interesting in showing those elements how to reflect and heal. Thank you, John. You've been a wonderful guest this evening or somebody who's commenting to our guests. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, Denise.
John. And it's just amazing to feel everyone's passion and support in helping somebody who is trapped in the human trafficking experience, and we want to be able to help and bring that awareness, because all people deserve to be loved and to be kind, and to feel that there is truly help here, and it doesn't always have to be in that evil place, that light truly can shine forward. So thank you, Andy, so much, and we wish you all a great evening, and we will talk soon. See y'all next week. Bye bye,
Thank
everybody.